the Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore, there's a lot of the Palestinian diaspora, because human rights. And maybe I didn't talk a lot, uh, maybe just it for me. And the last one is I want to say thank you for all participants. I hope all people in the webinar give the questions to our speaker, because this event is so good and so informative to us. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Aprilansana, for the opening remarks. Following the opening remarks, we will proceed to the keynote speech. We respectfully give the floor to His Excellency Ade Patmosarono, Ambassador of Indonesia to the Kingdom of Jordan and State of Palestine. His reflection will help us better understand the realities of the ground and the urgent need to sustain support and solidarity from the international community to Palestine. Please, Mr. His Excellency Ade Patmosarono, take the floor.
Thank you very much. I hope my voice can be heard. If it's okay, and I will continue my keynote speech. Mr. Apriana Sena, Executive Director of the International Politics Forum, distinguished speaker, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, greeting, and good morning from Amman. I thank the International Politics Forum for inviting me to deliver a keynote speech to the event with the theme Strengthening the Ties of Palestinian Diaspora in Southeast Asia. I think this theme is meaningful as countries throughout the region, Indonesia particularly, are deeply familiar with the ongoing struggle of Palestinian people for independence. Their experience resonates closely with the pursuit of self-determination and freedom that has shaped the region's identity. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the distinguished speaker, namely Mr. Muhammad Hussein, LC, founder of International Networking for Humanitarian, Mr. Jismi Johari, President of Malaysian Humanitarian Aid and Relief, Dr. Muslim Imran, Director of Asia Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue, and Mr. Fadlan Athori, Secretary General of OIC Youth Indonesia. Of course, I also want to acknowledge the moderator later on, Mrs. Nasulia Hatio, MH, International Relations Observer from University of Indonesia. I believe the speaker knowledge and expertise will enlighten us on the theme of this seminar. Dear participants, today people around the world are watching what happened in Gaza, the devastation and the suffering. Many people, especially women and children, are killed by Israeli aggression. The ongoing humanitarian blockade and restricted access to essential supplies have resulted in widespread malnutrition and famine in Gaza. What we are witnessing in Gaza is humanitarian catastrophe. Indonesia has constantly supported Palestinian independence, advocating for the two-state solution based on the 1967 borders in accordance with international law, UN resolution, and international agreement. I wish to share what Indonesian support for Palestinian cause, which I try to summarize in three ways. One is political support. Indonesia consistently support Palestinian independence at regional and international forum. The President affirms this stance. Indonesia actively participates in effort to assist Palestine as a member of OIC Arab League Ministerial Committee on Palestine, and recently by co-chairing a roundtable on the security for Israelis and Palestinians at the high-level international conference for peace and two solution in New York. Second, the capacity building. The government has launched several programs to build Palestinian capacity, such as empowering women, supporting the effort to establish drug and food agency, and providing agriculture training. Many Indonesian universities also offer scholarship to Palestinians. For example, several Palestinian students are currently studying at the Universitas Pertahanan or Defense University on the scholarship. Third, humanitarian assistance. The government and the people of Indonesia continue to support humanitarian aid to the Palestinian population. Numerous Indonesian charitable organizations and philanthropies have contributed essential supplies for Palestinian refugees, provided two mobile clinics, and funded the expansion of clinic building, all of which are in Jordan. With the worsening situation in Gaza, the government and the people also continue to provide humanitarian assistance. As instructed by President of Indonesia, we deploy currently 2 Hercules of the Indonesian Air Force to participate in the airdrops to Gaza. Just for example, on 17 August 2025, coinciding with the Indonesian 80 Independence Day, the first drop from Indonesian Air Force was conducted. Volunteer doctors from Indonesia, such as Mercy Indonesia, BSMI, have actively involved in providing medical assistance in Gaza. These doctors are working under challenging and often dangerous conditions. Mostly they are assigned at Al Nasser Hospital, though some went to Al Shifa Hospital. As you also know, the Indonesian hospital in North Gaza is barely functioning. In the face of this grim reality, Indonesia does not silent. Our solidarity is not only rhetorical, but it is concrete and actionable. Indonesia firmly rejects any attempt to forcibly displace people of Gaza from their lands. Equally concerning, the situation in the West Bank remains deeply troubling. There are ongoing incidents of arbitrary detention and extrajudicial killing, as well as the demolition of homes and communities. Recent developments have seen new wave of settlement expansion, accompanied by increasing violence carried out by the settlers. This action continues to exacerbate the hardship faced by Palestinians in the West Bank, undermining the prospect for peace and stability. This reality reminding us that the crisis is not confined to Gaza alone. Dear participants, I must confess that my knowledge remains limited regarding the extent and characteristics of the Palestinian diaspora within the Southeast Asia region, as the director of the IPF mentioned. I'm aware that there are several Palestinians pursuing their studies, including at university in Indonesia. The students in Indonesia, I'm told, has established their own association, fostering support among themselves. Through this seminar, I hope that we can collectively identify the characteristic of the Palestinian diaspora in each Southeast Asia country. Such effort will contribute to the deeper understanding and stronger support network for Palestinians throughout the region. Indonesia, as you know, and other Southeast Asian countries share a historic colonization and struggle for independence, which fosters regional solidarity. The path of independence was difficult, but this nation saw unity and overcoming differences as essential. Those in this region not only sympathize with the Palestinian cause, but also do whatever they can to support it. Supporting Palestinians should involve not only humanitarian aid, but importantly, effort to enhance their long-term capacity. Distinguished speakers will further discuss this issue during the seminar. Their view and hopefully will contribute to effort to build the capacity of Palestinians in the region. Indonesia continues to invest in Palestinian youth through education. We believe These young Palestinians will be the future of the nation and create a strong and resilience of the state of Palestine. The future of Palestine must be owned by the Palestinian people. Distinguished participant, Indonesia's message is clear. Palestine must be free. The Indonesian Constitution compels us to reject colonialism, oppression in any form. Our history teaches us the value of solidarity, and our humanity demands that we act. Finally, it is my hope that the seminar will achieve success, and I also believe that all participants will actively engage in the discussion so that innovative ideas and recommendations may emerge, strengthening our collective effort to support the Palestinian pursuit of independence. So thank you very much for the time that I've been given. And once again, I wish you all the best. And hopefully we can have something to come up from this seminar. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I also want to apologize. I have to leave this Zoom because today is working day here, and I have another engagement that I have to attend. But once again, thank you very much for listening and your presence here in the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Ade Padmosaurno, for the keynote speech that helped us reflect to better understand the realities on the ground and the urgent need to sustain support and solidarity from the international community to Palestine. Dear all guests, for your information, to help better understanding of the talks today, you can activate the caption feature in the taskbar below to help you better understanding of the talks today. And then we are also streaming this webinar in the YouTube. So you can share the link to YouTube to other people to help us together spread the information about the Palestinian diaspora. Next, Next, after the keynote speech, I will hand over the session to the moderator, Mrs. Hana Zulia Ratio MA, who will introduce all the distinguished speakers and guide us through panel discussion and Q&A session. We encourage all participants to prepare their questions and engage actively in the conversation.
Okay, thank you very much, Rasha, for the kind introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, His Excellency Mr. Ade and everyone. I'm Hanu, and it is truly an honor for me to serve as the moderator of today's webinar organized by International Politics Forum with the theme Root and Exile, Strengthening the Ties of the Palestinian Diaspora in Southeast Asia. Before we begin, allow me to introduce to our distinguished panelists. There will be perspective coming from Dr. Muslim Imran as Director of the Asia Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue, and also Asia Coordinator of the Global Coalition for Palestine and Al-Quds. There will be also coming from Mr. Muhammad Hussein Alsi as the founder and CEO of International Networking for Humanitarian, member of Indonesia Hospital Development Team in Palestine, and a founder of GazaMedia.net. Mr. Jismi Johari as the President of Malaysian Humanitarian Aid Relief, Chairman of Office and Secretary, which coordinate humanitarian aid from Malaysia to Gaza, leading Mahar's annual Kurban program in 2025, mobilize aid from Palestinian refugees in Egypt, and also work to educate the public about the history and conflict on Middle East. And also, last but not least, Mr. Adlan Atori as Secretary General of OIC Youth Indonesia, an active member of Asian African Youth Diplomacy Networks, former delegate summer camp on Turkey, and former delegates national MOIC Pakistan. We are privileged to have such esteemed speaker with us today, who will share their perspective and experience on strengthening the ties of Palestinian diaspora, especially in Southeast Asia. And also at the end of the webinar, there will be Q&A sessions. So please feel free to type your question in the chat box, kindly including your name and institution if possible. Without further ado, let us begin with our first speaker, Mr. Muhammad Hussein LC, as a founder and CEO of International Networking for Humanitarian. Mr. Hussein, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Hello.
Yeah.
Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me?
Waalaikumsalam. Yes.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah Muhammad ibn Abdullah qaidil mujahidin fi sabilillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa mawalah man ittaba'ah ila yaumil qiyamah amma ba'd. Ma sha Allah wa kana ma lam yasha' lam yakun la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilma. It's a pleasure to me to be here with you all because we today we're gonna talk about very important issue, and I'm so sorry I have to tell you from now that I cannot be with you maybe longer than 15 minutes because I have something urgently, but believe me that I have very good point to deliver to you in this session, in this Zoom lecture. My brother and sister, it has been nearly 2 years since the genocide in Gaza began, an atrocity among the darkest in the modern history, where mass killing are broadcast live streaming. Genocide is happening today before our eyes, before the eyes of the world, and it never happened before. This crime is not only the result of Israel's ruthlessness, it's not only because Israel is demonic, but also we have to remember, and I have to remind you, this genocide already happened because we are so quiet all this time. This crime is not only the result of Israel's ruthless aggression, but also the direct consequences of the persistent silence. We have been so silent through this 8 decades, 80 years. We were silent, and there is no sanction of the international community. That's why this happened. We must confront an uncomfortable truth. Yes, it's not a good fact, but we have to receive this. We have to we have to admit that we already have a contribution to this genocide because our silence this years. By remaining passive, we already have a turn in this genocide. We, the global society, have contributed to enabling this genocide. For too long, our responses have been emotional rather than strategic. That's very important point here. All of these years, we always show our brother in Palestine, we show them only emotional response rather than strategic. Outrage and cry, grief, and online solidarity may bring temporary relief to our conscience, but they achieve little for the people of Gaza. We didn't do that many things because we only respond by our emotional feeling, and it was not good, of course. Emotional reactions often fade quickly, leaving systems of operation intact and preparators unchallenged. Our anger without direction becomes powerless. We have no goal. We only cried. We only grieve. There is no clear strategic path. There is no clear strategic plan. That's why we must move beyond reaction and embrace strategy. We have to establish some really strategic movement. Strategic action means channeling our emotion
into organized advocacy, sustained political and economic pressure, coordinated campaign, and collective international solidarity. Unlike fleeting outrage, strategy disrupt structure, creates consequences, and beat movement that cannot easily be silenced or ignored. Every day, every day of hesitation costs life. Every day we silent, it does cost life. Every day we don't care, it does cost lives. Every hour of delay allows injustice to deepen, it costs life. And this is precisely why we are now mobilizing through global Sumut Flotilla. Yeah, maybe you already have heard this narrative because I always post it on my social media accounts. Global Sumut Flotilla. Sumut means steadfastness. In Indonesia, we call Ketegaran, Sumut, unwavering determination to resist oppression despite overwhelming odds. The Global Sumut Flotilla represents a new phase in our collective struggle. It is a very, very strategic initiative, a coordinated international effort to break the siege of Gaza, the illegal blockade of Gaza, to deliver humanitarian aid directly to its people, and to confront the blockade through direct, non-violent action on the seas. We're gonna send so many ships this day to break the blockade, the Israeli blockade over Gaza, which is illegal, of course. The flotilla is not only about ships and supplies, it's a strategy. It transforms solidarity into tangible action. It turns outrage into pressure that the world cannot ignore. We cannot ignore it anymore. The ships demonstrate that the international community is not powerless. The ordinary people across continents can unite to challenge a system of apartheid and genocide. The urgency of this global Sumut flotilla is undeniable. With every passing day, more children, women, and men are killed. The choice before us is clear: remain spectators trapped in cycles of outrage, or step forward as actors of history, embracing strategy over sentiment. My brother and sister, the global Sumut flotilla is a call to conscience of humanity. It proves that strategic action is really possible. And besides that, this global Sumut flotilla is a hope. We don't only deliver people or humanitarian aid. No, we deliver hope. And this is message for Gazan people, our brothers there, that they are not alone. We, the world community, will never leave them alone. And for me, and with my friend that coming to Gaza by this flotilla, by this ship, I have to tell you that we are not heroes. We are not heroes, and we don't. You know, it's not worthily to celebrate or to glorify it. No, because what we do is not a heroic action. It is basic humanity. We can be called as human if we speak loud about Gaza. We deserve to be called as human if we act strategically to Gaza. This is, as I told, this is basic humanity. So I really hope from now on, my brother, sister, in this Zoom meeting, please just stop reacting emotionally to what happened in Gaza. Now it's time to us to act strategically, because this is long path. This is long struggle. So I hope we can see the freedom of Palestine in the near future, or even we are the one who make it happen. That's what I can say you through this Zoom. I'm so sorry because now I'm in Malaysia and I have another appointment. But I thank you very much to you, my brother and my sister that invited me to join this Zoom meeting. I hope what I said can relieve ourselves at least, or can can add some new information and new spirit for you all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hussein, for the perspective. As Mike, I think about the presentation before, it's talk about we need to act more than emotional support as the international solidarity. And also, there will be next perspective coming from Dr. Muslim Imran. As the Director of Asia Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue, Dr. Imran, please, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Could you please pass the floor to a fellow panelist until I set up my camera?
Okay.
I'll be next speaker. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. So, since Dr. Imran is still setting up the camera, so we're going to welcoming Mr. Jismi Johari as the President of Malaysian Humanitarian Aid and Relief. Mr. Jimmy, please, the screen is yours.
Yes, hello, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hanuzulia, the moderator. And I would like to appreciate the host for today, International Politics Forums. Thank you, Mr. Aprilia Sena. And also thank you, Mr. Ade Padmo Sawono, who have given the opening the speech. And to my fellow speakers, Mr. Muhammad Hussein, Adlan Atori, and my dear brother, Mr. Muslim Imran. Today we are talking about the strengthening the ties with the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia. The word diaspora means people who has moved from their land to other places, such as in neighboring countries. And for us in Southeast Asia, it's very far from compared to the countries that is the traditional for the Palestinian to move out of Palestine and stayed upon because of they've been pushed out by the Israelis since 1948, Nakba, and 1967 Naksa. And we can see the diaspora has grown in Lebanon, in Jordan, and some in Egypt, and also some of the Middle Eastern countries. Talking about this, we have to identify this. There are differences in terms of environment in Southeast Asia and Middle East. The Palestinians who move in countries such as Lebanon, Jordan, or any other Middle Eastern countries, they are living in a sense of security in terms of culture, in terms of language, food, and other related matters that they are familiar with, including the faces, the people, and the environment. When they move into Southeast Asia, this is because of either from the beginning of the 90s, because of the war in Gaza, because of the attacks by the Israeli. So we can see the migration of the Palestinians into Southeast Asia, especially countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, which offers them a sense of security, which offers them opportunities, also offers them way for them to have to continue their livelihood and their ambitions and also their goals. However, we have to identify the challenges that the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia is facing. The Palestinian in Southeast Asia faces significant challenges, primarily related to their legal status. As you know, that most of them come here under, especially after October 7, they come here under a pretext that they are now refugees. So whenever they arrive in our country, they have to meet the basic needs in order to be qualified as a refugee. So, unlike the Middle East, where UNRWA is present, that provide extensive services to registered Palestinian refugees, most Southeast Asian countries do not have a formal framework for supporting refugees, which leave them in precarious situation. We look into the legal and social challenges. The most critical issue for the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia is lack of a clear and consistent legal status. This protection gap is a major barrier to a stable life. While many countries in the region, such as Malaysia and Indonesia, have strong political and diplomatic support for the Palestinian cause. This political stance does not always translate into formal legal framework for the refugee themselves. They have no refugee status. Many Palestinian refugees in Southeast Asia are not registered with the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which make them stateless or undocumented. This lack of legal recognition means that they are often viewed as illegal immigrants. So when they are often viewed as illegal immigrants, they are blocked from accessing the basic services such as education, healthcare, and employment. Limited rights. Without official status, these Palestinians in the diaspora in Southeast Asia face restriction on freedom of movement and are often at risk of arrest or deportation. This legal limbo prevents them from having long-term security. Imagine a father who wants to go out and work and to provide to his family, have to face the risk of being arrested and deported and separated from his family that he wanted to protect and provide. The Palestinian the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia also faces discrimination, where the absence of formal legal framework can lead to social discrimination and exploitation, as they are lack of legal recourse and protection. And they are vulnerable to exploitation. When they don't have legal protection, it puts them on high risk of economic exploitation, including wage theft, unsafe working conditions, and they are forced to work in the informal economy. The problem faced by Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia are distinct from those other diaspora communities due to their specific legal status and the region's political dynamics. Whilst countries in Southeast Asia, particularly those with Muslim majorities population like Malaysia and Indonesia, have shown strong political and public support for the Palestinian cause, this support often doesn't translate into legal recognition of full social integration for the individual Palestinian refugees. Ladies and gentlemen, other than legal and social challenges, the next key point that I want to present to you is the social and economic challenges faced by the Palestinian diaspora in our countries, especially in Southeast Asia. Number one is the public sympathy versus the practical support. While there are widespread public and governmental sympathy for the Palestinian cause, this does not always translate into tangible, long-term support for individual refugees. This can create a disconnect where Palestinians are welcomed rhetorically but face significant practical barriers to a stable life. Palestinians see Southeast Asia, especially countries, Muslim countries like Malaysia and Indonesia, welcomes them. But sometimes it is the other way around. When they arrive in our shores, they face a lot of legal and social challenges. When the base of legality and recognition for them to stay in our countries is blocked or limited, therefore they face economic challenges. Also, they face conditional support. In some cases, such as Malaysia, there have been instances of public support for Palestinian refugees declining or becoming conditional, as they are perceived to be similar to other less welcome refugee groups, such as the Rohingya, who are sometimes associated with social and economic ills. And identity and integration, like other diaspora groups, Palestinian in Southeast Asia, grapple with the challenges of maintaining their cultural identity while having and trying to navigate a new environment. We must understand that it is a totally new environment for a Palestinian, specifically a Palestinian from Gaza, to move to Malaysia or Indonesia. It is the food, the language, the culture itself, the education, and even the governmental system is totally different. So these Palestinians faces these hurdles and need to be welcomed into our country, and we have to open up and understand their cultures. Identity and integration, like other diaspora groups, Palestinians in Southeast Asia grapple with the challenges of maintaining their cultural identity while trying to navigate through the new environment. This is compounded by the unique political situation and often temporary or precarious nature of their stay. Another set of challenges for the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia is the political and security challenges. They have to navigate through the regional politics. The Palestinian diaspora can be caught in the complexities of regional politics. While some countries are staunchly pro-Palestine, while others have established diplomatic ties with Israel, which can complicate the situation. We have also seen the stateless identity, the ongoing conflict, and the absence of a recognized Palestinian state means that many Palestinians live with a stateless identity, which add to their psychological and social burden. It also means that they are reliant on international bodies like the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for support, which itself nowadays faces its own funding cuts and political challenges internationally. Surveillance and security concerns. In some cases, members of the Palestinian diaspora may face security scrutiny from the local authorities or other foreign agencies, particularly those with strong pro-Israeli stances. We have countries in Southeast Asia who have had a very good ties with the Israelis. So that's why we can see the reliance of the Palestinian diaspora mainly centered to the countries that is considered Islamic and friendly to the Palestinian cause, namely Malaysia and also Indonesia. Another challenge as a Palestinian diaspora or Palestinian refugee or a migrant in our country in Southeast Asia is the access to basic needs. These are the things that we need to look at, and we need to see what and how can we provide and help them. The Palestinians came here, and we are talking about strengthening the ties with the Palestinian diaspora, looking for ways on how to work with them to achieve their goal. Therefore, we need to also look at the basic needs and necessities for them when they are in our countries. Among other things that seek by the Palestinians are education. They need to access to formal education. In many countries, public schools are not open to citizens, are only open to citizens or those with valid residence permit. As a result, Palestinian children often rely on informal alternative learning centers or community-run schools, which may lack proper funding, qualified teachers, or standardized curricula. These can severely limit their future prospects. Access to healthcare is also a significant problem. Public hospitals and clinics often charge exorbitant fees for non-citizens, making treatment for serious illnesses and emergencies prohibitively expensive. This forces many to depend on non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and private clinics, which may not be equipped for complex medical needs. Employment is the most important thing for a Palestinian who brings their family to Malaysia or Indonesia or any countries in Southeast Asia. The lack of legal status, as we discussed earlier, severely restricts access to formal employment. Many are forced to work in informal economy where they are vulnerable to exploitation, low wages, and unsafe working conditions. They have no choice. The Palestinians have to stay in our country. They don't have the ability to go back to their country at this point of time, whether they are from West Bank or even now they're from Gaza. The inability to secure stable legal employment makes it difficult to earn a living in condition and to support their families. And other than that, there's food and shelter, which is the basic needs. And I will skip on the food and shelter part, as most of the NGOs in Malaysia or Indonesia have already fulfilled these areas. The social and economic challenges is real. We need to make sure that the Palestinian, we need to build a durable, conducive, and sustainable environment for the Palestinian diaspora to stay in our country until a solution has been achieved for Palestinian states, or whether they are able to go back to their country. As you imagine, we go back to let us discuss back on the migration, causes of migration. Since October 7, the causes of migration, we can see the people who are being evacuated out of Gaza are those who are injured, some students, the companions of the injured, and the family members. There are also a very, very low number of people or Palestinians from Gaza who went out of Gaza but unable to return, and they are separated with their families. So these are the group of people who create the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia. whether they are students, they are here seeking help, they are here seeking work and refuge. These are people that we need to know and understand their real needs and wants. In order for us to strengthen our ties with them, we need to understand this. And also, another thing that we need to understand is the goals of the Palestinians. How can we work together with them in achieving their goals? The Palestinian in the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia also faces political and security challenges. We have discussed about this. They have to navigate the regional politics, where some countries are very pro-Israel and some countries who are pro-Palestine. And there are also issues where Palestinians have problems with their legal documents, not only from the host countries in Southeast Asia, but also they have legal issues with their own authorities. Some Palestinians I have come across was denied their passports by the authority by the Palestinian authority themselves because of their political stance. So these issues, in order for us to strengthen our ties with the Palestinian diaspora community, we need to understand them, we need to find ways to help them, we need to find ways to navigate through this. The local community support. In the absence of government support, Palestinian community organizations, local NGOs play a vital role in providing essential aid and services. These groups often work to fill the gaps in education, healthcare, and financial assistance. Many NGOs provide direct humanitarian aid, including food, clothing, and shelter. Organizations like Malaysian Humanitarian Aid and Relief, MAHAR, leads efforts to raise funds and coordinate aid for Palestinians. This includes everything from providing food and medical supplies to supporting long-term development projects. They also advocate for the rights of the Palestinian diaspora, pushing for more human policies and a greater legal protection. The local community support also extends into advocacy and political solidarity. Diaspora communities and groups actively lobby governments, engage with the media, and mobilize public opinion in their host countries. Their goal is to raise awareness about the Palestinian struggle, push for policies that support a just resolution. We can see, as Brother Muhammad Hussein mentioned, about the Sumut flotilla. In countries, today we will have the launching of the Sumut flotilla in Malaysia, which are fully supported by the Prime Minister himself. Other than that, Indonesia, all the way to His Excellency the President of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Prabowo, who have supported the Palestinians through sending aids and pushing for airdrops in Gaza. Local support also extends through cultural preservation and education. This is the most important thing, the cultural preservation and education. To preserve the right of, to be able to have the right of return, a citizen of a country have to preserve his or her identity, and mainly through language and culture. So this involves organizing events, festivals, education programs to preserve the Palestinian heritage. We have worked through the Palestinian Cultural Organization since 2009 to promote the Palestinian culture in Malaysia, and now we are extending into some other countries as well. This is particularly crucial for the younger generation who have never visited Palestine. Some Palestinians who have their children here and their children have not even seen their hometown. Skills and knowledge transfer is also very important. Many diaspora members are highly educated professionals. They can contribute by creating networks for brain circulation where they can mentor students, provide expertise in various fields, and help build the local capacity in Palestine when it's ready. So what NGOs can do are to provide therefore, to effectively address the challenges faced by the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia, NGOs and host governments must work together on both humanitarian and political level. NGO can continue to provide crucial on-the-ground support while host governments can create legal frameworks that can acknowledge and protect the rights of the diaspora. What NGOs can do, among others, is to provide essential services where the NGOs can fill the gaps left by the government, provided access to the education, healthcare, and formal employment. Other than that, NGOs can offer legal aid and advocacy, a critical role to provide legal assistance to help Palestinians navigate complex immigration and statelessness issues. This includes assisting birth registration, marriage documentation, applications for asylum or residency. NGOs can also act as intermediaries, bridging communication gaps between the diaspora and the UNHCR or host government agencies. NGOs also can promote self-reliance to the Palestinians. Beyond providing basic aid, NGOs can empower the diaspora by offering skill building and livelihood programs. This includes vocational training, language classes, both local and English, and entrepreneur workshops. By fostering economic self-sufficiency, NGOs can reduce the community reliance on external aid and create more sustainable future. Also, through the NGOs, they can help to strengthen the community network. The NGOs have a strong sense of community and identity by supporting the refugees-led organizations and cultural events. This is critical for the psychological well-being of a displaced population. Ladies and gentlemen, on top of what we have discussed today, the most important thing is what the host governments can do. The host government holds the most power to effect long-term systematic change by establishing formal legal and policy frameworks. Number one is to grant legal status. The most impactful action a government can take is to create a formal legal status for the Palestinian diaspora. Back in 2016, Malaysia have launched a special program called the Special Syrian Migrants Temporary Program. This is an answer by Malaysia to the refugee crisis in Syria. As we know that Syria not only hosts the Syrians, the original Syrians, but they are also a host of the Palestinians who were driven out of their homes in 1948. So this special migrants program provides the Syrians and the Palestinians under this program a legal status where they are allowed to stay in Malaysia. They can work, they can access to the basic needs and necessities such as education, healthcare, food, and shelter. What are the things that the host government can do is to allow access to basic services That is by granting access to public education, healthcare system, governments can significantly improve the life of diaspora. This can be done through the tiered system or by extending services to those with an official recognized status. Governments also have to find ways to establish a right to work to the Palestinian diaspora by permitting them to work legally, and it will be very transformative. It will allow them to move from informal economy to formal employment, ensuring fair wages, safe working conditions. This would not only benefit the individual, but also contribute to the local economy through taxes and increase consumer spending. And the utmost, which is the highest level of what a government can do, is to rectify the international conventions. While complex, a long-term goal for host government could be to sign and rectify the international agreements such as 1951 Refugee Convention and the 1954 Convention relating to the status of the stateless persons. Even without full ratification, they can adopt the core principles of these conventions into domestic laws, such as the principle of non-refoulement, not forcing refugees to return to dangerous countries. This can be avoided. This can cause that no Palestinians in the diaspora that were caught to be sent back to their home country. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, with all the challenges that I have presented to you, before strengthening the ties with the Palestinian diaspora in Southeast Asia, my advice is that we look into the challenges and how we can accommodate them. At the same time, we will support for the Palestinians to achieve their goals. And with that, I thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jismi, for your thoughtful perspective. From the notes that I take from Mr. Jimmy, that a lot of country has offered the Palestinian refugees to continue their life, but still we are facing the challenges. We don't have the formal network to handling the refugee as the legal action, and they are not registered in the UN and undocumented, which means they are illegal immigrants and lack of the access, limited rights, and security as their basic needs. We need to continue to support the Palestinian, including pushing the government to support the Palestinian. And now let us continue with Dr. Imran. Sorry. So let us continue with Dr. Muslim Imran as the director of the Asia Middle East Center for Research and Dialogue. Dr. Imran, please, the floor is yours. Sorry, Dr. Imran, the microphone is still unmuted.
Yeah. Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Miss Moderator, Excellencies, friends, fellow panelists, participants in this important forum, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers for having me to speak to you and for organizing this event at this critical time. I'm very honored to be with all of you. Thank you very much. And I'm very glad to see some fellow friends speaking in the panelist list just now, Mr. Jismi, Mr. Hussein, and others. A very good day to you all. In my presentation, I will try to highlight some important dimensions that I feel should be highlighted. But before going into all these dimensions, I would like to share that I personally am a Palestinian living in the diaspora. The Palestinian people are not a very populous nation unlike Indonesia, for instance, which has about 280 million people or so. The Palestinians are at best 14 million in numbers. However, the challenges they face are tremendous challenges that require the efforts and the commitment of millions and millions of people to end the ongoing, onslaught on the Palestinian people. Now, of these 14 million Palestinians, almost half of them live in the diaspora. There are about 3 millions in the West Bank. I am a native of the West Bank myself. I was born and I grew up in the West Bank, but I moved out of the West Bank for higher education, and then I became myself a part of the Palestinian diaspora, having lived in diaspora for more than 20 years. There are 2 million Palestinians in Gaza who are facing currently genocide and ethnic cleansing as we speak, in addition to a forced famine and starvation by Israel. There are more than 1.5 million Palestinians living inside the bounds of so-called Israel. They are Palestinian citizens of Israel. And in addition to all of these Palestinians, there are about 6 to 7 million Palestinians living in the diaspora. These living in diaspora are mostly in neighboring states. There are a few millions in Jordan itself. There are about 500,000 in Syria and Lebanon each. And there are tens of thousands in countries like Iraq, Yemen, Turkey, Egypt, and others. But in addition to all of these communities, there are at least 1 million Palestinians living in Western countries in Europe and North America, in addition to about 500,000 living in Latin America. Some who have migrated before Nakba, but most have been forced out of Palestine after the 1948 ethnic cleansing, which Palestinians call Nakba. So we are talking about a huge number of refugees, a big number of Palestinians living across the world, not because they chose to move there voluntarily, but mostly because they were forced out of Palestine. And these communities, of course, face challenges and their issues need to be addressed. But it is impossible to handle the problems of the Palestinian diaspora if the root cause continues to be unaddressed. The problem that the Palestinians face starts with Zionism. It's not a domestic economic problem, for instance. It's not that suddenly there is a famine like what happened in some parts of Africa a few decades ago. It's not because of agricultural policies, not because of economic policies, and definitely not because of internal Palestinian problems. What the Palestinians are facing is due to an external occupation, a colonization that has created the refugee crisis, that has created the
Dr. Imran?
Seeking better life, of course, but again, we have to address the root cause. What is the root cause of the problem? The root cause of the problem in Palestine is, I would say, in simple words, Zionism. Zionism is an extremist, expansionist, racist, settler colonial ideology that emerged in Europe, sometimes in the late 19th century. The word Zionism was coined by some German-speaking Jewish communities in Western Europe, and eventually a movement centered around the idea of creating a homeland for the Jewish people somewhere else emerged, and in 1897 they set up their own World Zionist Organization and started to moot the idea of creating a homeland for the Zionist Jewish people in Palestine. The forefather of this is, of course, Theodor Herzl, the leader of the World Zionist Organization, and the one who wrote an important book called Judenstaat, or the Jewish State, in which he proposed that the Jewish people should have a state of their own. The problem here is that this extremist ideology did not affect the adjacent areas. It emerged in Europe, but it affected us somewhere else in the Middle East, in Palestine, in West Asia. The Western colonial powers in the First World War worked together with the Zionist movement to create a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. So hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forced out of Palestine for another community to come and take over. By the year 1947, an enormous campaign of ethnic cleansing and genocide took place. We call it, as Palestinians, we call it Nakba or catastrophe, but of course, Israelis call it the War of Independence. A new state emerged, a new political entity emerged in the name of Israel. And almost 1 million Palestinians became refugees. They had to move out and, of course, join the rest of the Palestinian diaspora. By then, there was a very small community of Palestinians in the diaspora, especially in the Americas, in North and South America, who have moved there before the Nakba. But by Nakba time, 1 million Palestinians became refugees. Now, the numbers continued to grow. Why is that so? Because Israel, this new political entity, did not live in peace with its neighbors. Of course, many modern or new states have emerged across history, especially in modern and recent history. But none of these regimes was set up with an extremist, expansionist, racist ideology that continued to require expansion, domination, and wars. We know, for instance, other examples of political constructs, new states, artificial states that emerged over the last century. Many of them lived in peace with their neighbors. Some, of course, were not successful, but many were successful, and many lived in peace domestically and in their region. Israel was an exception. Israel continues to be actually an exception. This extremist ideology of Zionism inspired the founding fathers to expand the territories of Israel. So in 1948, they controlled 80% of the land of the Palestinians, and they forced out more than 750,000 Palestinians into diaspora. Instead of living in peace with the rest of the neighbors, the Israelis, the founders of this Zionist regime, decided to expand. By 1956, they attacked Egypt. More Palestinians became refugees. By 1967, they annexed Gaza, Sinai of Egypt, the West Bank, which was under Jordanian administration, the Golan Heights of Syria, and they expanded their territories. More Palestinians became refugees. Of course, more Arabs as well became refugees. Arabs of Sinai and the Golan Heights and others. And if you go visit Damascus today, there is a neighborhood for Syrians who were forced out of the Golan Heights, who continue to be refugees until today in their own home country. So the diaspora, the Palestinian and Arab diaspora is heavily influenced by Israel's policies. 1967, they expanded. 1973, they annexed more Syrian land. 1982, they invaded Lebanon and killed, maimed, and of course, forced many Palestinians and Lebanese out of Lebanon. And Israel's policies of annexation, expansion, racial discrimination continues. In the last 20 years, more than 5 wars were waged on the Palestinians in Gaza. Of course, many Palestinians had to relocate. By today, the number of the Palestinians in diaspora is huge and is heavily affected by Israel's policies. But we have to also acknowledge that the biggest pain and pressure is being applied on the Palestinians who are still in Palestine. Because the Palestinians who live in Gaza, the West Bank, and under Israel's direct control as Israeli citizens are in Israel's racist mind are a big challenge, a human challenge. Sometimes they call them human animals, sometimes they call them demographic threat. The word or the term demographic threat is very popular in Israeli discourse. They always talk about transferring the Palestinians. Before the genocide started in Gaza, in Israeli newspapers and daily political discourse, the term transfer has become very popular. Israeli ministers, members of Knesset and others continue to talk about getting rid of as many Palestinians as possible. So they want a Jewish, quote unquote, a Jewish state for Jewish only people. They don't want Arabs, they don't want Palestinians, they don't want Muslim or Christian Palestinians or even Jewish Palestinians for that sake. They only want Jewish Zionists in that regime. That's the root cause of the problem. We can talk the whole day about the challenges that face the Palestinians in diaspora, and they are real. And I personally have experienced them. It's not easy to travel. It's not easy to get visas anywhere. It's not easy to live in peace because of many external challenges. But the biggest problem is the root cause, which is Israel's policies, which is actually, to put it very simply and plainly, is Israel's existence. Israel's existence is a problem because it is the root cause of many of the problems that take place in the Middle East. It is the root cause of the bombings that take place in Iran, Iraq, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon. It is the root cause of the genocide that takes place now in Gaza. It is the root cause of many, many problems. Israel's existence as an extremist, ultra-nationalist regime in West Asia is the reason why there are many problems facing the people of the region and most particularly the Palestinians. This brings me to Israel's ongoing ethnic cleansing plans, which are a direct impact on the Palestinians in both in Gaza and in the diaspora. If you followed the news over the last 2 years, Israel has openly spoken about depopulating Gaza. Trump joined the fray and started to talk about creating a Rivera in the Middle East. He even mentioned that the US would like to take Gaza and rebuild it and, own it. Israel, since October 2023, has made its policies very open. They would like to depopulate the Palestinian territories, especially Gaza and the West Bank, to force everybody out and to create new buffer zones or safe zones for the Zionist settlements and the Zionist regime to expand. Now, unfortunately, the international community has only denounced these policies in words, rhetorical denouncement, no concrete policy to stop the Israelis from implementing such horrible policies have taken place. The only serious challenge that Israel is facing is actually the resistance of the Palestinians, especially the resistance that's taking place in Gaza. That is the main challenge for Israel's implementation of its ethnic cleansing policies. If there was no resistance in Gaza, if the Palestinians did not fight back, I assure you, by today, the 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza would have been displaced and sent over outside of their homeland in Gaza. Now, Israel's ethnic cleansing plans are not only tolerated by the international community. Unfortunately, some international players are actually coordinating with Israel to help implementing forced displacement of the Palestinians in Gaza. If you follow the news, there is a lot of talk now in Israeli media, especially, about some Muslim countries receiving Palestinians from Gaza to settle in their own homelands. There was a lot of talk about Somalia receiving Palestinians. Some officials from Somalia said, no, we are not going to accept this plan. There is a lot of talk about South Sudan receiving hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, but the foreign ministry in South Sudan said, no, we are not going to entertain Israel's request. And recently, there is a lot of talk in Israeli media about Indonesia receiving about 10,000 Palestinians to settle in Indonesia as part of Israel's plan to get rid of as many Palestinians as possible. There were some, responses from the Indonesian foreign ministry that they are not entertaining Israel's plan. But I would say that a few statements are not enough. We need a full, clear commitment by the Indonesian government, which we know is very sympathetic to the Palestinian struggle. We want a very clear commitment and declaration that they are not going to entertain Israel's displacement plans. They are not going to allow Israel to force Palestinians out of Gaza or to resettle them in Indonesia. Now, of course, we appreciate Indonesia's reception of Palestinian students, of helping Palestinians to get treatment in Indonesian hospitals, receiving Palestinian expatriates, Palestinian people coming for business, tourism, etc. But what I'm concerned about is Israel's open plan to force 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza and to get the help of some foreign countries in entertaining this depopulation plan. So the talk is that a country like Somalia was asked to take 50,000 people. Indonesia was asked to take 10,000. Even Malaysia was offered to take a few thousand Palestinians. this is a very serious issue, and I really hope that the governments of the OIC member states, the governments of friendly nations, the governments of countries that are sympathetic to the Palestinian struggle will push Israel to end its aggression on Gaza, to bring a ceasefire, and to stop its depopulation of Gaza plans, its demographic displacement of Palestinians. This is very, very dangerous. Now, this brings me, having said so, this brings me to the status of the Palestinians in the diaspora in general. I started my presentation by highlighting that there are about 7 million who are scattered across the world. All of these Palestinians hope to go back to their homeland one day. I personally wish that I can get the chance to go back to a free Palestine. But the biggest challenge is Israel. As long as there is an Israeli occupation, and as long as there is an Israeli colonization, it's impossible that these Palestinians will go back. Israel will not allow that to happen. So we have to work together on undermining Israel's position as a colonial power, dismantling the Israeli regime in order for these Palestinians to go back to their homeland. However, that does not mean that the international community should not accommodate these Palestinian refugees and Palestinians in diaspora until they go back to their homeland. Because the policies of different countries are different. Some countries in the Middle East, for instance, are very accommodating to the Palestinians who have resettled in their own countries until Palestine is free. They allow them to live, to work, to do business, to go schools, to study, etc. But some other countries, even within the Middle East itself and West Asia, still deny the Palestinians basic human rights, still deny them the opportunities to work, the opportunities to have legal documents, travel documents, and put on a lot of restrictions. Moving to Southeast Asia, there is a small Palestinian community that has been living here for the last few years. In Malaysia, there are a few thousands. In Indonesia, there are a few hundreds. And we are very appreciative and thankful to the countries of this region for allowing the Palestinians to live here, to do their education, jobs, etc. But at the same time, we are very hopeful that the policies of these countries will accommodate the status of these Palestinians either as refugees or as people who are seeking education or jobs. But I understand that there are still legal restrictions within the legal framework. None of the countries of Southeast Asia, if I'm not mistaken, is a member or a signatory of the Rome Statute for refugees. So there are still a lot of restrictions and challenges when it comes to the legal framework. But the populations of the countries of Southeast Asia are very friendly to the struggle of the Palestinians. And this brings us to my final point of this presentation, which is the role that can be played by the Palestinians in the diaspora. The Palestinians who have come to Malaysia, who have come to Indonesia, or who have moved to Europe, North America, Africa, Asia, are not there only to look for a job and survive. They see themselves as missionaries, people who have a great cause that they have to work for. They would like to contribute actually in advocacy work, in humanitarian aid, in awareness campaigns. And this is an open call to all of the organizations, think tanks, NGOs, governments, and groups across Southeast Asia to utilize these Palestinians, to make use of these expertise, of these potential contributors to your, not only to your economy, but also to your international network. Palestinians would like to be to contribute positively for these nations and for their own cause and struggle. The most important, in my perspective, is the contribution of these Palestinians to create awareness about their struggle, to humanize the Palestinian people in the eyes of the world, because Israel has worked very hard. Israel's Diaspora for the last few decades tried to demonize the Palestinians. You just look at the way the Palestinians have been portrayed in international media, especially in Western cinema and media. We have been demonized by Israel. It's time to humanize the Palestinians and show elements and the other human dimensions of the Palestinian community, the Palestinian culture, the Palestinian civilization, the Palestinian food, the Palestinian clothes, dance, etc. Indonesians, Malaysians, and many other friends in Southeast Asia can help us a lot in doing so by giving the platform, by projecting the Palestinians in places and opportunities that are possible by removing some of the obstacles and restrictions, especially in the legal framework, by getting the Palestinians involved in their academic institutions, in their media campaigns, in their humanitarian efforts and other activities. And in this perspective, I see your invitation to me as a Palestinian to participate as part of this contribution, and I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to all of you, and I wish you all the best. And I really hope that someday, very soon in our lifetime, we will see a free Palestine where the millions of Palestinians in the diaspora will be able to go back and build a life in their own homeland of Palestine, a free Palestine without Zionist colonization, without Zionist domination and terrorism. Thank you very much, and I really hope I added some insights to your conversation. I wish you the best and looking forward to work with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muslim Imran, for your valuable perspective. The point that I take is a lot of Palestinian refugees living across the world, which they are forced to get out from Palestine. And also, the problem is not from their internal Palestinian, but from Zionism as the extremist ideology, and started to create their homeland in Palestine by taking over, using the genocide and ethnic cleansing. Unfortunately, there has been a lot of country has been refused the Palestinian refugees, and right now we need to full clear commitment, also declaration to protect the Palestinian and protect the humanized Palestinian refugees as their basic needs. And for our final speakers for today session is Mr. Adlan Atori as the Secretary General of OIC Youth Indonesia. Mr. Adlan, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellency Indonesian Ambassador to Jordan and Palestine, Ambassador Ade Patmo Suwarno, Ade Patmo Sarwono, and Dr. Muslim Imran, Mr. Muhammad Hussein, and Mr. Jismin Sari from Malaysia. Distinguished speaker and all participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like thanks to the International Political Forum for giving me the opportunity to speak today. It's truly honor to join this important discussion alongside the people who share the same commitment to peace, justice, and the human dignity. Our topic today, Road in Exile, strengthening the ties of the Palestinian diaspora in the Southeast Asia, is very close to my heart. Not only as Secretary General of OIC Indonesia, but also as a young Muslim who believe that injustice anywhere is safe to justice everywhere. Palestinian diaspora identity. The Palestinian diaspora is one of the largest and the most resilient communities in the world. More than 6 million Palestinians live outside their homeland. Their exile began with the Nakba in 1948, continued after the Sixth Day War in the 1967, and has been prolonged by the side of the occupation and the conflict. However, that what make the diaspora unique in this, despite being forced away from their homeland, they never lost their identity. They continue to preserve their culture, their language, and their memories of Palestine. And they keep fighting for their right, whether through education, cultural preservation, or international advocacy. For us in Southeast Asia, This is not a distant story. The Palestinian diaspora live among us in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, and Thailand. And this is why we have both of privilege and the responsibility to strengthen these ties. Okay, next slide. South Asia youth effort in advocating uh, Palestine issue in Indonesia. In Indonesia, solidarity with the Palestine is deeply rooted. We have the witness massive demonstration organized by student alliance and the campus group across the country. What is the remarkable is that these young people from the Palestine not only as the religious issue, but as a human rights issue. This is a perspective is very powerful because it unites people from different backgrounds under one principle that the right to life with dignity belong to all human beings. Uh, Indonesian youth also go beyond the street. They organize a seminar, conference, and a cultural discussion about Palestine. They send a humanitarian aid. They raise awareness on social media, and they keep the conversation alive in academic circle. This is proof that the Indonesian youth movement is not reactive but proactive, working to build a long-term solidarity framework. Okay, next slide. Next, from the operator. Okay. In Malaysia, solidarity for the Palestine is strongly expressed through the BDS movement, where the 2,000, especially youth, join weekly protests as a lesson in the collective responsibility. Their creativity also shines through the virtual protest in Roblox before, which went the viral and the individual children and teenagers showing the solidarity, no limits of space, no limits the time, and no limits of the platform. Uh, Maybe from the Mr. From the Malaysia also told us before. Okay, the next from in Philippines. In the Philippines, youth groups, the student council, and the campus journalists actively show solidarity by holding protests outside the Israel embassy, often joined by Palestinian students who share their testimony, the voice for the Palestine campaign. Further raise awareness by highlighting Gaza destroyed education system. While initiatives like the Gaza Kitchen express solidarity through culture and the food, reminding us that the supporting Palestine is also about preserving culture, dignity, and humanity. Okay, next slide. In Singapore also, where the political limitation make the open protest difficult, uh, youth still find a way to act. They raise funds, organize petition, and run educational campaign. A powerful example was the Live Gaza monologue, where the Palestinian youth share testimony of the performance, showing that even when official space are restricted, solidarity can still be expressed creatively, ensuring Palestinian voice are heard. Okay, next. So, what's the OIC Indonesia effort in advocating the Palestinian issue? OIC Indonesia has actively involved in voicing the Palestinian issue through several initiatives. We are committed and we are committed to ensuring the Palestinian remains central in our youth diplomacy. Okay, let me share some of our initiatives. The first from the model OIC diplomatic simulation. Uh, This is like the model United Nations (MUN), where the Palestinian student join discussion with the OIC youth. Not only the Palestinian student, the Indonesian student join discussion with the OIC Indonesia about diplomacy, science and technology, technology, commerce, human rights, and of course the Palestinian. Uh, the global and we also the global issues are raised in the diplomatic simulation, and the Palestinian student and OIC country student in Indonesia are also involved in this simulation. Okay, next. Last year, we also attend in some conference in Bangkok, Thailand. OIC Indonesia has actively involved the Palestinian issue in international conference and discussion the Palestinian issue about the Palestinian moment of truth in Bangkok, Thailand. Okay, next, also the discussion webinar about the All Eyes on Palestine webinar. And also OIC Indonesia Solidarity Protest. We mobilize Indonesian students and Palestinian students to stand together and protest in front of the U.S. Embassy on the street in Jakarta. Okay, next. We also give some statement, official statement, and we send our statement to ICYF in Istanbul, Turkey, about the consistently respond to the genocide in Gaza and cruelty in Palestine, voicing our support in national and international level. This report proves that youth are not a passive observer. We are an active player in shaping global solidarity. Okay, next. Challenge is strengthening the ties. Of course, the journey is not without a challenge. The first, the geographical distance sometimes uh, creates emotional disconnection, especially for younger generation born outside the Palestine. Uh, the second, political limitation. In some countries, prevent full recognition of Palestine or restrict public activism. The third, identify challenge. The younger generation in the diaspora may feel torn between integrating into their new environment and preserving their Palestinian roots. These are real obstacles, but I believe with creativity, persistence, and unity, we can turn challenge into opportunity. Okay, this is the OIC Indonesia hope towards for the Palestinian issue. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, let me close by sharing our hope. The force, strengthen youth solidarity, uniting Southeast Asia and the Palestinian youth as one family. The second, greater global awareness, reforming Palestinian as a human rights issue, not merely religion or politics. The third, sustainable advocacy, ensuring our actions are continuous, creative, and impactful. The fourth, youth in diplomacy, amplifying youth voice in a global forum, influencing real decisions. The fifth, freedom and justice for Palestine. Ultimately, we hope to witness the end of genocide, the restoration, restoration of dignity, and the independence of Palestine. Uh, Dear all participants, the Palestinian diaspora is not a symbol of fear. It is a symbol of resilience, and the Southeast Asia, which is the strong tradition of solidarity, has a unique role in supporting them. As a young people, we have the energy, creativity, and the courage to make sure the Palestine is never forgotten, and that the voice of those in exile continue to be heard. On behalf of the OIC Youth Indonesia, I reaffirm our commitment. We will stand with the Palestine. We will stand with the diaspora. We will continue this struggle until the Palestine is free. Okay, thank you very much. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wallahu muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Nun waqala wa ma yasurun. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Adlan Atori, for your presentation. As I might take a note, Palestinian diaspora right now continue to live among us, which means we have the privilege to responsibility to strengthening the ties. Also, among Southeast Asia, there's a lot of movement from a few platforms to support the Palestine. And also, OIC Youth Indonesia itself has making the official statement to support Palestine, which means youth has an active voice to build the global solidarity. And now we will move into the panel discussion session, where our distinguished speakers will exchange views and respond further on today's theme. To begin, I would like to ask to our panelists as their view, as the Palestinian diaspora right now continues to grow worldwide, yet many remain without legal status, rights, or protection. From your point of view, how can Southeast Asia, including the youth, NGO, and other platforms, to continue to contribute more effectively to ensuring their dignity, identity, and long-term security? Maybe from our panelists who would like to start sharing the perspective to starting the panel discussion session, from Dr. Imran or Mr. Adlan or Mr. Jismi.
Yeah, can you repeat again the question?
Okay. How can the Southeast Asia, including the youth, the NGO, or other people, to contribute more effectively to ensuring the dignity, identity, and long-term security of Palestinian diaspora?
Okay, as mentioned by Dr. Muslim Imran earlier, the Palestinian in the diaspora in Southeast Asia, they come here not by choice. And they have one goal. Their goal is to have a legitimate and recognized Palestinian state, and they want to go back to their country. That's why they keep their identity in terms of their language, their culture. It is converted into their daily life, their food, the way they dress, and those kind of things. Yeah, how can youth and other NGOs contribute towards preserving their culture? Is we communicate and we collaborate with the Palestinian-based NGOs and activists in terms of promoting their culture, and also we don't restrict them in becoming or accepting our culture. You know, we allow them to live in their own cultures, their ways, their way of living, their way of thinking, and also we respect their cultures. For example, in Malaysia, the Palestinian community here is quite huge, and it creates its own mini economy, where not only the Palestinian community but also the Arab community. You have to understand that the Arab foods are totally different than us in Southeast Asia, and of course we don't force Palestinians to eat nasi lemak or bakso, but but we welcome if they want to, but they have their own staple food that they eat every day, and they have their own shops that they go to where they shop for the materials for them to cook. At the same time, Palestinian culture is also embedded with the Islamic culture, and they go to the mosque. They dress. I mean, basically almost the same as us, um, and except you don't restrict them or you don't prohibit them uh, in doing what they're doing. And the most important thing is to engage with the Palestinian Palestinian-based NGOs and also the activists, get to understand them and embrace their culture. I think that's my point of view on the how do we support the Palestinian in terms of preserving their culture and in the diaspora. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the point is by respecting the culture, by not forcing them to use our identity, even though they are not staying in their homeland. And also, the most important thing is we need to engage with the Palestinian wherever they are. And is there any another perspective from Mr. Adlan or Dr. Imran? Okay, so okay, so if there's no other any perspective from other panelists, thank you very much for our speakers for enlightening presentation. Now we will open the floor for the Q&A session to all participants. Please, if you wish to ask directly, you may use the raise hand feature, and I will give you the opportunity to ask the question directly to our panelists. And also, please feel free to type your question in the chat box, kindly including your name and institution. We will try to accommodate as many as questions as time allows. So let me begin with the first question from the chat from Zalvin from Kajian Eropa. Would you like to ask directly or am I going to read the question in the chat box? For Zalvin, please. Okay, so I'm going to read the question from the chat box from Zalvin from the Kajian Eropa Institution. In what ways might the strengthening of Palestinian diaspora networks in Southeast Asia influence Indonesia diplomatic relation with Middle Eastern states, particularly in the context of pressure from actors maintaining close ties with Israel? Maybe from the panelists who like to answer the question from Zalvin. Maybe from Dr. Imran or Mr. Adlan. Okay, so maybe we can moving on to
Yeah,
another.
I think I'll just buy in answering the question. Let's avoid in terms of engaging or strengthening our ties with the Palestinian diaspora. We have to understand we are strengthening the ties with the Palestinian people as a whole.
Mhm.
Okay, and the objective of the Palestinian people is one, to stop the war, to stop the atrocities by the Israelis, which I believe is the same as any other countries in the Middle East. So whenever we engage with the Palestinian diaspora, we focus on a few main aspects generally accepted by everybody around the world. Okay, whether they are from the Middle East or from the East European countries, we accept the general overview. That means to stop the war and the atrocities by the Israelis.
Yeah.
So I think we avoid from getting, of course, from time to time, governments, politicians, or countries would pressure other countries, especially within the OIC, within the Arab League. That is in a very close way and a very respective manner among themselves. So we don't encourage or we don't pressure our government to break diplomatic ties with other countries that in the Middle East, especially, but to persuade them and to encourage them to be more supportive of the Palestinian cause. And if we are talking about the base of the humanity, the Palestinian issue is humanity. Humanity is a general issue that is accepted by everybody around the world. So in terms of strengthening and engaging with the Palestinian diaspora, we focus in this issue only. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jismi, for the answer. The next question coming from Dimas Indra. Would you like to ask the question directly for Dimas Indra? Okay, so I'm going to read the question from the chat box from Dimas Indra. What communication strategies are most effective for the diaspora to use in conveying an authentic Palestinian narrative to the diverse communities of Southeast Asia? Maybe the question would be able answered by Mr. Adlan. Mr. Adlan Autori, would you like to answer the question? Or maybe if there are other perspective from other panelists also, please answer the question from the Dimas.
Sorry for music knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. From my perspective, three strategies are most effective for the diaspora to convey and alternative in Southeast Asia. Of course, localized storytelling with the cultural sensitivity. We sought to present the Palestinian story in ways that connect with the Southeast Asia value, such as family, resilience, and justice. Personal story create empathy beyond the politics. The second, multi-platform engagement using the social media, video, and local language to make the message more relatable, especially for the youth. And third, collaborative advocacy and interfaith dialogue. Also, working with the local community and framing the issue as a universal human rights cause, not only the political or religious one. Authenticity come from the life experience, human value, and the cultural respect. That's how we ensure the narrative resonates deeply across the Southeast Asia. Maybe the answer for how the this is the three communication strategy stand out as the most impactful for the diaspora, Palestinian diaspora in the Southeast Asia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adlan, for the answer. And also maybe this is the last question coming from Maria Sitanggang. Would you like to ask the question directly for Maria Sitanggang? Okay, so I might be read the question from the chat box from Maria Sitanggang. The question is, considering their geographic dispersal and the challenges of assimilation, how can the Palestinian diaspora effectively unify their cultural identity, political narratives, and economic resource to collectively advance the Palestinian struggle for justice and self-determination, especially in the face of complex geopolitical challenges and international polarization? Maybe from the panelists, would you like to answer the question from Maria regarding to Palestinian diaspora unify the cultural identity, political narratives, and economic research to collectively advance Palestinian struggle for justice? Maybe from Dr. Imran, Mr. Jismi, or Mr. Adlan?
Okay, the question would be is related to how can the Palestinian in the diaspora unify their
Yeah.
cultural identity and political struggle, right?
Yeah.
Towards the Palestinian freedom. Especially their cultural identity, the Palestinian in diaspora is solid, is unified. You can see wherever they come from, whether they are from Gaza or from West Bank, they have, if you ask me, from my experience, I've seen almost the same cultural identity, which is the Palestinian identity. Even though they come from two separate places where they have two separate systems, but basically they have the same cultural identity, and this is not an issue. As for the political identity, or political beliefs among Palestinian, generally is divided into two political beliefs, but we have to remember they both carry the same struggle and the same objective. It's how they want to reach the objective that is different. But as I mentioned before, in order for us to engage with them, we have to not to be too involved in their internal politics, but we support them through their goal, the basic goal, or the ultimate goal of every Palestinian, and the ultimate goal of the Palestinian struggle, which is number one is the recognition of the Palestinian state, and number two is the right of return for all Palestinian people, especially in the diaspora. It used to be the diaspora, as I mentioned before. The diaspora used to be within the only towards the neighboring states, but now we can find the Palestinian diaspora almost everywhere in the world. There are Palestinians in Europe, in the US, in Canada, and now in Southeast Asia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jismi, for the answer. Okay, so due to time limitation, we need to close the Q&A session. Is there any additional from the panelists? Okay, if it's not, yeah, Mr. Adlan.
Okay, maybe the last the question. This is my perspective also. I think the geographic distance and assimilation cannot break the spirit of the united people. The Palestinian diaspora can stay strong with preserving culture, through the education, speaking with one voice on justice and self-determination, and the pooling economic strength to support the community. Unity is not about uniformity, It is about share value, share vision, and the collective commitment to freedom for the Palestinian is great. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adlan, for the additional, and also thank you to all of our speakers for the thoughtful answers.